She-Hulk. Nope, it's still terrible. So we're at the stage with Disney where everything they put out has an agenda, be it feminism, environmentalism, LGBT rights, and the brand of feminism that they're going with seems to mostly just involve hating men. And the main agenda, the one that should be there, providing entertainment in exchange for money, is nowhere to be seen. I'm now half a dozen programmes into this comedy show and it's yet to get even one laugh from me. Not even one. And this show is still desperately unfunny. The series seems to be very loosely based on a mixture of two runs of the She-Hulk comics, the Savage She-Hulk and the Sensational She-Hulk, and it's way worse than either of them. They butcher pretty much every character and don't even manage to copy some of the parts of the comics that actually were quite funny. Like this, from the Sensational She-Hulk, which is a lot more humorous than the 1980 run was. It has a lot more jokes and fourth wall breaking, and this is where the TV She-Hulk gets the meta humour from. In this edition, She-Hulk is trying to halt a large runaway truck in order to protect civilians, and that's more heroism than TV She-Hulk has managed so far in 3 hours. So She-Hulk tries to block off the truck, and this happens. It's pretty basic slapstick, but it still gets to show She-Hulk as being heroic. It just doesn't work out for her. Meanwhile, in the TV show, we're at the law office, and Nikki had stumbled upon a website during the meeting with Mr. Immortal, a website called Intelligentsia. And it is this website that let Mr. Immortal's exes know about his continued existence. I think it's the writers trying to have a go at 4chan or something, and it's psychologically captivating. Don't get me wrong, the actual show is dull beyond belief. The interesting part is watching the writers project their neuroses onto the screen and try to dismiss arguments out of hand without ever listening to them. Nikki saw a reference in the sidebar of the Intelligentsia website saying slutty She-Hulk and really wanted to get into the website. She wants it to a frankly obsessive degree and sends emails out pretending to be a misogynist to site members in order to get in. And by the time she gets in, it's gone dark in the office. Also note that Nikki is wearing a pentagram. Make of that what you will. They introduce Intelligentsia, describing them as man babies, all while themselves being incredibly childish. The whole Intelligentsia thing is more of the writers being wildly obnoxious. And they've already started with fallacious thinking. They introduced Intelligentsia by poisoning the well. Let's see what these caricatures had to say. Wants equality, still expects you to pay for dinner. I know, right? The gall of men to expect equality. Don't men know that equality's only for women? Because that's what the writers were offended at, that a man is calling them out for not wanting equality when it suits them. Nothing could be more equal than going on a date and splitting the bill 50-50 or both people paying for themselves. It's like that adage, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And that's what this is. They have a privilege and are offended that they're only being offered equality. Why do you think you're entitled to have men buy your dinner for you and subsidise your lifestyle? And yes, it's a pretty clear breach of the concept of equality. It's instead special pleading. It's saying, I deserve equality. And I deserve more. And it is, if anything, insulting to the man unlucky enough to be with you. It's like saying you're more interested in his wallet than you are in him. And if you believe in equality, maybe you should treat the men in your life once in a while if you expect them to do it for you. There's nothing wrong with going Dutch. If anything, it seems to be a healthier way to start a relationship. If the man pays for everything, it's starting the relationship on a grounding that the man provides and the woman takes. So what happens to the relationship if the man gets sick? Because if that happens, a lot of men get cast aside because they can no longer provide. It's not good for a relationship if one partner only knows how to take. And a woman expecting the man to pay for everything is a pretty big red flag that she doesn't respect or value him. The next one. wears yoga pants, gets mad when you look. And boy, is this one a can of worms. Is it reasonable to look at other people? Well, yes. I look at everything around me. It's basic situational awareness and threat detection. And people's eyes are naturally drawn to movement. I'm not going to stop doing that. Is it reasonable to get mad at somebody for looking at you? No, not really. If it's a glance, staring is maybe a different story. Staring at people is maybe going to get you into a situation you don't like. But if someone is staring and making you uncomfortable, it's maybe not unreasonable to ask them to stop. And if it happens, maybe don't jump to the worst possible conclusions. It's not always like you think it is. Like the recent story of the blind male gym user who got an earful for staring at a woman in inverted commas. This is kind of getting ridiculous. And meanwhile, women get to look where they want and nobody says a thing. I'll just add that to the ever-growing pile of double standards created by people who want special treatment, not equality. As for yoga pants, man or woman, it's maybe not a good idea to wear something so tight and thin that people can see the shape of your genitals through it. As a man, I tend to wear things that don't allow people to know if I've been circumcised or not. And similarly, if you walk around with half of your breasts hanging out, people are probably going to notice that there's a strange woman in the room with half of her breasts hanging out. Someone may see you and say, "Excuse me, ma'am, but this is a daycare." Point being, people are going to see you, and if you're going to be angry at people seeing you in clothes that you chose to wear, maybe you should have chosen to wear something else. I thought about this for a while. Where do I stand on people staring at women or at anyone and making them uncomfortable? I already make a lot of concessions to other people's comfort. I tend not to stare. If it's late at night, I'll cross the road so as not to get too close and scare people. I'm not a small guy, and it has been known for people to find me scary. If something I do is making someone uncomfortable and they ask me nicely not to, I'll weigh that up and maybe change what I'm doing. But I will not be given orders about where and where not I can direct my own eyes. Skip me with that. At times, it can be hard not to look at someone too much. I remember a girl from university who I found just so crushingly beautiful that I could barely take my eyes off her. It's only been that bad once, I think, where it felt like my eyes were magnetically attracted to someone. In my defence, she looked and acted like an angel. I wasn't thinking anything bad. I was just kind of in awe. The thinking part of my brain would switch off for a moment, and when it came back on, I'd be looking at her and sighing, and it was kind of embarrassing. I was actively trying to stop so I wouldn't make her uncomfortable, and I was not doing a very good job of it. But people noticing your existence does not mean that they want you or are ogling you. They may be thinking that you look ridiculous. They may think that you look like a tramp. But look who I'm trying to talk sense to. These are people that think when a man leaves and doesn't ever call again, it's a sign of how awesome he thinks you are. So sorry, ladies. Occasionally I may have to look in your direction, if just because I'm trying not to walk into people. I can scarcely believe this needs saying, but I control my eyes, not you. And you don't get to control my bodily autonomy, even if you'd like to. And it doesn't matter how much you nag. The level of entitlement required that you think you have a right to tell someone else what they can look at. Wow, and some of you writers are struggling to find partners. Shocking. You seem like such a catch. You want special treatment from men and want it to be treated as normal. You want special treatment and to be able to act like you're entitled to it. And no, I'm not going to let someone try to manipulate and shame me into being their toady. You aren't a princess, you aren't a queen, and I'm not your footman. I'm not going to be henpecked, lectured and shamed into spending my life on my knees, blindfolded, serving you, even if that would make you more comfortable. Get over yourself. I think a quote from Hillary Clinton best sums up the attitude that we're witnessing here. Women have always been the primary victims of war. Women lose their husbands, their fathers, their sons in combat. And I think I would like to amusingly paraphrase that as men dead, women most affected. And after that, there are loads of people who want Jen dead. And why? She never does anything. She was in the news once for saving a jury, and that's it, isn't it? What else has she done? She helped Wong with some demons, got into a fight at a wedding, won a court case, went speed dating. Why would anyone care enough to want her dead? So throughout this section, they strawmanned arguments from people that they don't like, but they don't actually disprove the arguments and beat the strawmen. If anything, they lost to the strawmen of their own creation. Mallory tells Nikki not to tell Jen about the threats on the website because it will upset her and ruin her mental health. So Nikki gets in the car and immediately phones Jen and tells her, because Nikki is a tool. And this is what they do instead of either Nikki or Mallory doing the sensible thing and calling the police. They have evidence of threats and conspiracy to commit murder. It's also a good idea to tell Jen so she at least knows a threat is there and can defend herself. But Nikki's not telling Jen because it's in Jen's interests. Nikki is telling Jen because Nikki can't shut up even if it hurts her friend. There is not a single nice character in this show. I'm hard pressed to decide who I like the least. Meanwhile, Jen is getting on well with Josh. He appears to have met her threshold for bedroom time by buying her some fries, so he's well in there. And yes, that episode was effing diabolical again. I hope you enjoyed this review because I had to watch this episode twice and at least some good will have come of my pain.
Could you make me a cup of tea, please, Stephanie?